Hello, welcome to the channel. My name is Brittany if you are new here. Today I am going to be talking about feminine energy, masculine energy, and the betrayal of the feminine energy by the masculine energy. Now, let me be clear, this is not specifically about men and women. However, I will be acknowledging the pain that men have caused. I will be acknowledging the patriarchy because that is important to name and acknowledge. However, the betrayal of the feminine energy by the masculine energy is deeper than that. It's not only bound by gender, there's a lot more nuance to it. It's not defined by gender. So I'm going to be talking about a few different things today, so bear with me. I feel like this is a very important conversation, one that I'm really starting to understand more clearly, and one I feel really called to speak out on. And recently, the feminine rage has been rising within me. The feminine rage has really been rising within me. So I'm going to show you a few of my Instagram posts because that's what I'm going to be going, kind of like helping me hold the flow through this, if that makes sense. I'm going to speak to my own pain, how the patriarchy has affected me personally. I'm not going to dive too deep into that, but I'm going to be talking about my own pain. I'm also just going to be talking about collective pain, and I'm going to be talking about how essentially each and every one of us have been affected by this. Not just women. It's not just women that have been affected by this. Everyone has been affected by this. And I also want to start out by saying, energies is not bound by gender. We all are here in a human body, whatever body you came in here in, we all chose before we came here. And some of us might wonder why we chose what we chose, but we all chose for whatever reason, even if our mind can't quite comprehend the reason. There's always a deeper reason to it that the soul knows and understands. So with that, we all came in a human body to have this experience, but both feminine and masculine energy live within all of us. And it's really important to balance those energies within us. As I'm going to get to, the feminine energy has been betrayed by the masculine energy. So that affects men and women and everyone in between, however you identify. It hasn't only affected women, and I want to make that very clear, and I'm going to dive a little deeper into that because I made another video the other day where I was reacting to an Instagram post that I really felt called to speak on, to bring light to, and I wanted to just dive deeper on roles when it comes to masculine roles, feminine roles, and I don't even like using the word roles because I feel like, yeah, we need to let go of that language as well. Anyways, I just felt called to dive deeper into it. So I'm going to be using my Instagram. I'm going to be sharing some posts because this has really been living within me recently, and I've really been using my Instagram as a means of expression. I love it, actually. I've found this new flow, this new vibe with Instagram, and I'm using it almost like a personal diary, and I invite you to follow me along. I would love to have you over on my Instagram. So this is my Instagram account here. I would love for you to join me over there. Please be mindful of fake accounts, okay? It's bad on TikTok, it's bad on Instagram, it's happening now here on YouTube as well, which is so frustrating. I will never DM you, I will never offer you services through the comments. Just a little side note there. So if you follow me, sometimes there will be other accounts, fake accounts that reach out to you that claim to be me with the very similar name, with the same image as me. So there's nothing I can do about it. Believe me, I've tried. So just a little disclaimer. But I'm going to start with my own personal experience. So I shared this, I felt called to share this recently, and a little trigger warning. Okay, I'm going to be talking about sexual assault. I was RAPED when I was 19. That's how I lost my virginity. And I kept it a secret for 10 years. I was afraid to tell anybody. I kept it a secret. Now that could be a whole other video for another day. I'm not going to dive too deep into that specifically right now, but this is kind of where it starts on my Instagram feed. So I'm going to share this, and I'll have all of the links below to the videos that I'm showing you here because I can't really play the actual video because of copyright reasons, because of sound in the background. It honestly makes me emotional every time I look at it. So I'm just going to read the caption with you guys here. I was RAPED when I was 19 years old. That's how I lost my virginity, and it t me up far more than I realized. I kept it a secret for 10 years. I didn't feel safe telling anyone. I was afraid that I'd be blamed. So I shoved it down and tried to forget it ever happened. But it's a memory that's haunted me for the last 12 years, one that still resurfaces because I know there are layers of healing I'm still yet to face. And it honestly makes me emotional. I'm angry and heartbroken for that version of me. I said no, but he did it anyway. I froze, I disassociated, I was scared and confused, and didn't even understand the trauma that had just been inflicted on me. I was used and discarded and left to carry it in silence. Even writing this now makes me nauseated. My chest tightens, my throat closes. It still makes me sick to my stomach 12 years later. And when I was writing this, I'm not kidding, I was like, I felt nauseous. I felt sick to my stomach as I was writing this. I didn't mean to capture this emotional release, which you'll see if you watch the video, which, I mean, trigger warning, but I recommend you watch because I feel like a lot of us hide emotion. A lot of us are afraid of expressing deep emotion. We're afraid of even tapping into it within ourselves because of the betrayal by the masculine to the feminine because of the betrayal of the feminine by the masculine, which affects all of us again. Anyways, I didn't mean to capture this emotional release. Something told me to turn on the camera as I was going inward with some mush. After the camera had been rolling for a while, this came through a moment of truth, of grief, of processing, of healing. I'm choosing to share it because we need to stop being afraid of emotion. We need to normalize the big emotions, the real and the raw. Tears are not weakness. Emotion is not shameful. This is what healing looks like. I was raised Catholic, and the truth is, I was never properly taught what sex even was. The sex education in my Catholic elementary and high school epically failed. Abstinence was preached, purity was idolized, but real conversations about consent, boundaries, autonomy, intimacy did not exist. I wasn't taught how to speak up. I wasn't taught that my voice mattered. I wasn't taught how to advocate for myself. The Catholic Church, like so many patriarchal institutions, is rooted in control, in purity culture, in fear. It conditions girls to internalize shame. It silences healthy conversations while perpetuating dangerous systems. Let me be clear, I do not blame my parents. They love me deeply. I know they would have wanted me to come to them, but they too were raised in this church. They too were indoctrinated by the same system we all were. This is not about blaming individuals. And then I'm just going to find it in the comments here because it's continued in the comments. I got to go to the very bottom. And as I'm just kind of finding the continuation here, really quickly, it's interesting. After this post, I lost 200 followers, which is okay. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I literally don't care about that kind of thing. It's not about that. But it showed me, interesting, a woman showcasing her truth in her full expression and being unafraid to showcase emotion is unsettling for a lot of people. It's very confronting. And if people have their own trauma when it comes to that sort of a thing, I understand, them not wanting to look at it or anything like that. But it was a very interesting observation. With that said, I did receive a lot of support and love on that post, which was beautiful to see and I'm grateful for. Okay, continued. This is not about blaming individuals. Also, I don't know why I can't as a creator, I'm unable to pin my comment on Instagram. I don't know why I can't pin my own comment. So, anyways, I liked my own comment at the very beginning just to make sure it was at the top for people to see. I think it is now at the top for people to see, but for me, I have to scroll all the way to the bottom to see my own comment. Anyways, this is not about blaming individuals. It's about holding systems accountable. What happened to me didn't just rupture my body, it severed my sense of self-worth. And at a deep subconscious level, I disconnected from intimacy and from myself. Disassociation became my safety mechanism, and for a long time, I didn't even realize how deep my disassociation was. But that's what's changing. I'm reclaiming my voice, my body, my truth, and I'm not carrying this in silence anymore. This isn't just about me, it's about the countless girls and boys raised in silence, shame, and confusion. We need better education in schools. We need to teach real sex education, real consent, and real communication. We need to evaluate the church and its indoctrination and stop pretending its teachings are harmless when they cause this much pain. This has to change. We have to do better for our kids and the generations to come. The church cannot keep hiding behind righteousness while its silence breeds trauma. The patriarchy embedded in religion must be dismantled because our safety built on silence is not safety, it's survival. And healing begins with the uncomfortable truth. So that is where this started, if that makes sense. Where on my Instagram, where it started me diving more into the betrayal of the feminine by the masculine. Now, I've come to this realization back in 2023, like the betrayal of the feminine, and I really started tuning into that rage in 2023. Recently, though, it's really resurfaced, and I've been understanding it at a deeper level to the point where I feel called to speak on it. I'm not saying I'm an expert or anything like that. Listen to your intuition, trust yourself over anything. I always like to give that little disclaimer. And if I forget to give that disclaimer in a video, I'm always like, I want you to always trust yourself over anything. I think that's so, so, so important. Listen to what feels true in your body. With that said, some of these truths that are coming forward are really uncomfortable for a lot of people. A lot of people just want to shove it down and they don't want to look at it because these uncomfortable truths are rooted so deeply in the body. It's very disrupting to the nervous system when people are confronted by these truths. But I think that these conversations, these honest and real conversations, not avoiding anything, are necessary. And I think the uncomfortability is a part of the medicine, which is why I'm speaking out on this and why I'm being honest. And what happened to me has happened to so many other women. A lot of women have been silenced. A lot of women, it's like it disconnects something like RAPE, something like this completely disconnects a woman from herself. Completely. It completely disconnected me from myself, and I had no idea. I had no idea. I had no idea how deeply it impacted me. And I'm beginning to understand it. I'm beginning to understand it. Anyways, so I wanted to start with that because that's a piece of my pain. That's a piece of how I've been hurt. And I believe it stems from the patriarchy. And I know that the patriarchy has affected me in more ways than just that. As I said, it affects everybody, whether we're aware of it or not. The betrayal of the the betrayal of the feminine by the masculine. I sat in an ayahuasca ceremony one of the hardest journeys I've ever had to sit through. And Mother Aya was really showing me how deeply rooted the patriarchy actually is. Yes, I already knew the patriarchy was a thing. Yes, I knew that we were all affected by it, but I didn't fully understand the depth of it. And ayahuasca showed me the depth of it. And when I tell you that was one of the hardest journeys I ever had to endure, it was really hard, physically, mentally, all of it. She really made me see how I was affected by the patriarchy personally. And this is coming from a white woman living in North America, acknowledging my, I can never remember this word, acknowledging my privilege, acknowledging my privilege. Like I literally, whenever I can never remember the word privilege, like what, anyways, acknowledging my privilege. Anyways, and for a long time, I hated even really talking about the patriarchy and how men have suppressed women because there's so many men in my life that I love, that I deeply love, that I see, that I value, that I appreciate. I'm someone who desires love. I'm single at this time and I desire love and I'm straight. It's a spectrum. Everyone is wherever they are on the spectrum. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Personally, I desire to be with a man. And I know there are good men out there. So for a long time, I've really struggled with even speaking to this because of that. However, in order for true healing to happen, we need to acknowledge the pain that has been inflicted upon us. It has to be acknowledged. We can't gloss over it. We absolutely can't gloss over it. And people will say like, oh, well, it's not all men or da 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 da. And I hear you. And I'm going to speak to that as we continue because I made a whole post on that. I hear you. But the problem is deeper than that. What I realized on my ayahuasca journey, what ayahuasca showed me is how deeply rooted it is. Even men who mean well, who genuinely love women, men who mean well, who have beautiful hearts, It's so deeply rooted in them that it's still often perpetuated at a subconscious level. We're so blinded to it. We're so blinded to it. That's how deeply rooted it is. Does that make sense? It's so deeply rooted that we're blinded to it. Even men who mean well, who are good and beautiful men. Does that make sense? And again, it affects everybody, gender aside, which I'm going to get into that bit either. This video, I'm going to be kind of going a few places here, so bear with me. So I just wanted to give you a little background on one example of how I've personally been deeply hurt and affected by men and by the patriarchy. With that, I've been doing reflecting. The feminine rage within me has been rising because, okay, here's the next post that I'm going to do. I'm going to talk about this next one. The masculine was meant to protect the feminine, and it failed in that mission. So this is my video, and you could see I'm doing my little martial arts. Just a little side note, I'm a 2nd degree black belt. I almost got my 3rd degree, but I quit right before testing for other things, which is just a little side note, something I'm proud of. Yeah, I love martial arts, and yeah, that's just a little side note, just a little snippet about Brittany and my one of the many lives that I've lived. I used to teach Taekwondo actually for years. Okay, the next. Lately, I've been using the space like a diary, so here's another entry. There's something rising in me that's hard to put into words. It's part heartbreak, part holy rage. It's personal and it's collective. I've been hurt by men deeply. Manipulated, mistreated, used, betrayed, raped. I'm healing, but that wound lives in my body. Not just mine, it's ancestral, generational. As women, we are carrying the same ache, whether we've woken up to it yet or not. I'm beginning to understand it on a deeper level. This is the betrayal of the feminine by the masculine. This is not about bashing men. This is about the systems, conditioning, generational patterns that made it normal for women to feel unsafe, unheld, unprotected. The true masculine is meant to witness, to stand beside the feminine as her equal, her partner, her protector. Protection of the feminine is one of the core missions of the masculine, and the masculine, as a collective energy, has failed in that mission. I'm not saying men are failures. I'm saying the energy of the masculine, as it's existed in imbalance, has failed in what it was divinely designed to do, protect the feminine. And it's time for that to change. This isn't about individual blame. I know there are men waking up. I see the ones doing the work to make right what society taught them wrong, but we need more of it, and we need it now. This sacred rage is waking up in women, and it's saying, no more, we are rising. Men can feel it. Some cower, some get defensive, some avoid, but we need devotion. We are calling men forward to wake up, to rise into sacred responsibility, to remember the real reason the masculine exists, not for control, not for ego, but for integrity, for love. This is a call to men. Rise with integrity, with devotion, with real grounded presence. Put your ego aside, do better. The feminine needs you in your true divine essence. This isn't a war between men and women. It's a reckoning, a remembering, and we need each other in our highest forms. The time is now. That video, I specifically talk about men and women. And what I'm going to get to next, I'm going to explain it more as an energy in a second and how we have all been affected by it. But this post specifically, this was after doing and sitting with my RAPE, really sitting with that and having a really deep emotional release. I was really feeling that rage, and I really wanted to express that because it's important to acknowledge how men have really hurt women. That's something that we need to see and acknowledge. No buts. No, oh, but not all men. Not, oh, but this. Not, oh, but that. No, we need to see it and acknowledge it fully with presence. That's true divine masculine energy, is holding the space with presence. No buts, no if, ands, this, or whatever, period. We need to acknowledge that. It's like the shadow within us. When we're doing shadow work within ourselves, we need to fully see and acknowledge our shadow. We can't bypass it with, oh, but this. We need to fully acknowledge it in order to integrate it, in order to heal. Does that make sense? It needs to be fully seen. We can't bypass that piece. So I just want to mention that because I understand the, oh, not but all men, but not all men, da 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 da. I understand that, but I'm going to get to that in a minute as well. Okay, so next, the feminine was betrayed in all of us, silenced by the wounded masculine within, but she's rising and we are reclaiming her. When I speak of the betrayal of the feminine, I'm not only speaking about men and women, I'm speaking about energies and the collective wound we all carry. It lives inside of us, gender aside. The imbalance that has shaped generations both internally and externally. Yes, women have been deeply hurt by men. We cannot ignore that. I've been talking about this pain recently on my page and how I have been feeling the feminine rays rise within me, rage rise within me. The patriarchy has silenced, controlled, and abused women, and that pain must be acknowledged if we are to truly heal. But to heal this wound fully, we must also understand that this betrayal is not just a gendered issue, it is an energetic one. The masculine, the energy of protection, structure, direction, has turned on the feminine, the energy of intuition, feeling, and creation. And this betrayal has happened within us too. We all carry both feminine and masculine energy within us, no matter our gender or identity. And while many women will naturally embody more feminine energy and many men will embody more masculine energy, this is not a fixed rule. What matters is truth, and that expression should come after our own inner balance and healing of both energies within us individually, not from conditioning or survival. So let me explain that just a little bit more. So I'm not talking about like, I want to make it very clear, right? Like typically women will naturally embody more of the feminine and typically men will naturally embody more of the masculine. But that's not a rule and there's nothing wrong with you if it's the other way around. I want to make that very clear. Okay, we're all who we are and it's beautiful and there's a spectrum and da 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 da. But what's important is that we truly balance and heal those energies within us. A lot of us carry a wounded energies within us because of the patriarchy, because of the hurt, because of the shame and abuse that has been perpetuated on the feminine, right? Like think about it. Oh, don't cry. Like we're taught that emotion is a weakness. Like big girls don't cry or oh, boys don't cry, right? We're taught to suppress the feminine within each and every one of us. Majority of us carry wounded energies within us, and that's an imbalance of energy within us. That's where I'm talking about the energy is not balanced. It's not in harmony. It's wounded. The masculine energy within a lot of us is suppressing the feminine energy within a lot of us. Does that make sense? So it's really important to heal those energies within ourselves so that we can come back to the truth of who we are. When we come back to the truth of who we are, that's when we're able to acknowledge or see, recognize what energy we embody more of. I know someone who thought that they embodied more of the feminine energy naturally, and through healing, they realized when they were able to bring those energies into balance, through healing, they realized naturally they actually embodied more of the masculine energy, but they only came to that awareness through healing because of the wounds that were perpetuated and because of the wounds that lived inside of them. Does that make sense? So it's important to balance those energies within you so that you can recognize what energy you truly embody more of. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense how I'm trying to explain that, because that's a wound that's not bound by gender. It lives within each and every one of us. The feminine energy within all of us, it's a collective wound, has been betrayed by the masculine energy. And we see that on an individual and a collective level. So let me continue with my post here. Personally, I've lived most of my life in my masculine because I had to. It was survival. My inner masculine took over. He betrayed my feminine, not out of malice, but for survival. He thought he was protecting me, but in doing so, he silenced me. This is what we see collectively too. Men, often disconnected from their own feminine, have acted from a wounded masculine, dominating rather than protecting, controlling rather than holding, and many women forced to survive in a patriarchal world have had to abandon their feminine essence and over identify with their masculine just to stay safe. This betrayal runs deep. It's in the parts of ourselves we've exiled, in the energy we've suppressed, in the survival patterns we've mistaken for personality, which is important too, in the survival patterns we've mistaken for personality, right? Ding, ding, ding. Healing begins with acknowledgement of the pain caused and how it's lived within each of us. To heal and reclaim our wholeness, we must restore the harmony of the feminine and masculine within us. And I had to abbreviate the end there because these captions never give me enough room to like say what I want to say. I'm like, I have so much to say. I've really been like diving into the author within me. Like when I was a kid, I used to want to be an author, which is so funny, a writer. And I love writing. I have a degree in English. I was an English teacher, actually, a high school English teacher, English and PE. My degree's in English and kinesiology. That's just another little like side note, but I love writing and I feel like that's really why I've been expressing myself through Instagram. It's given me the opportunity to express, like it's like a little diary entry. But anyways, so that's really important to acknowledge as well. So we want to acknowledge the pain that has been caused by men, that has been perpetuated by men onto women specifically. That is a reflection of the imbalance that has happened within us. Do you know what I'm saying? Like this wound of the masculine betraying the feminine, we see it mirrored in so many different ways. We see it within us on an individual level. Collectively, we also see it externally. We see how men have abused and hurt women literally as well. And that's something that also needs to be acknowledged. There's nuance to this and there's layers to this. And I want to acknowledge that, but it's important to recognize all of it, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to read this next one. Okay. Uncomfortable truth. The unconscious patriarchy is still alive. It's in your programming. We're done being quiet. Lately, I've been in deep reflection, and what's been rising within me is a wave of feminine rage. Not chaos, not drama, but holy anger. One that's rooted in centuries of silencing, suppression, and misunderstanding. And I want to talk to that in a little bit further here before I continue reading. I posted a video the other day talking about an Instagram post that I wanted to call out, and my holy rage was coming out. And I feel like some people didn't really know how to take that. This person has a large platform and can cause a lot more harm than good. And I was angered. There was rage within me for the women who are yet to wake up, if that makes sense. And just because I'm expressing my anger, it doesn't mean it's chaos. I'm not afraid to express myself in my full divine essence. And that's going to rock the boat for some people because we're not used to women who have reclaimed their voice. We're used to women who have been silenced because people feel a lot more comfortable when women are palatable because that is what they have been programmed to feel. Anyways, I've shared a few posts recently about the unconscious patriarchy and how I've personally been hurt by men. Speaking my truth has brought in beautiful support, but it's also been met with subtle resistance. I've lost a few hundred followers, which to be clear doesn't bother me. Everyone has the right to curate what they consume, but it's an interesting observation. It confirms what I've been saying. A woman in her full expression, raw, honest, embodied in her truth, is confronting for a lot of people, men and women alike, because it challenges the comfort of the status quo. Then there are the quote unquote, not all men comments. And this is where we're getting to the, oh, well, not all men, which I get. There's men in my life I love and see as well. And I want to make it clear I'm not blaming men specifically. This is a collective wound, and we need to get on the same team to heal this. But the not all men comments, which again prove my point, that immediate need to deflect, to protect the ego rather than to pause and listen. It's a reaction that reveals a deeper discomfort with being asked to look inward. What's becoming painfully clear is that many still don't understand what the unconscious patriarchy even is. They don't see how it's woven into our systems, our language, our nervous system. It's woven, you guys, into not only our systems, but our nervous system. Our nervous system. That's why I say it lives in our bodies. How it's not just personal, but generational. It lives in the shadows, passed down silently, shaping how we relate to ourselves and each other without even realizing it. And that is the ignorance I'm speaking to, not stupidity, but a lack of awareness. If people truly understood the depth of what I'm pointing to, they wouldn't meet it with resistance. They'd meet it with curiosity, with humility, with a willingness to look closer. That's why I share, not to attack, not to shame, but to illuminate. To remind women they're not crazy or too much for feeling the way they do, and to invite men, especially the good ones, to stay open instead of shutting down, to stay in the room. We need presence. As I said before, that's true divine masculine energy, presence, to stay in the room when it's uncomfortable. Because if we're ever going to create real healing and wholeness between the masculine and feminine, we need truth, we need fire, we need discomfort, and we need the courage to hold it all without running or getting defensive. So that was another post that I really, kind of like, I've been posting a lot. And there's one more here that I want to share. I had an experience with a gentleman that I called out. On his Instagram because I'm not afraid to speak my truth. You guys, I've really am coming into my voice. I really feel like I've reclaimed my voice, and I know there's layers to this. And I've been on this journey for years now, and it's been challenging, and I've been tested, and I know I'm not perfect. I'm not claiming to be, but I'm also unafraid to speak my truth. And I know it's really confronting for a lot of people because, again, the unconscious patriarchy lives in all of our bones, men and women alike. So when a woman has reclaimed her voice, it can be very confronting for not only men, but women as well. Yes, men and women. And I know that I'll receive hate for it. And honestly, that's okay. Like, that's fine. Like, we're carving a new way. We're carving a new way. I'm seeing things more clearly. I'm seeing things different. And I know that I'm going to receive pushback for that. And if that's what I'm here to do, like, that's cool. Like, it's whatever. Like, genuinely, I'll accept that with compassion and with understanding. Anyways, because I also had someone comment on my last video saying, I'm scared this is going to make it to the wrong side of the internet and you're going to receive hate. I'm like, trust me, the universe has prepared me for receiving hate. I remember there was on my TikTok at one point for like 2 weeks straight, I was receiving like emails upon emails and comments of like, I was literally getting death threats. Like, it was really bad, you guys. I was getting a lot of hate, and that was tough, but it strengthened me in the long run. Anyways, so going to this next one, I had an experience with a gentleman who, do you know what? I'm really disappointed in this situation, if I'm being completely honest. You know, I'm not going to get into the details of it. Maybe down the line I will. Editing Brittany here. I'm editing this video like a lot, like a few weeks after I filmed it. So I did. I talk about this whole thing. I have a whole video on my YouTube. So if you're interested about the details of what I'm referencing here, it's called like Challenging Ryan Moresby White's View on Mission Over Woman. I'll have it also tagged in the description below. We'll see. But there's this one particular creator who I really respected. I actually really respected. I want to say I respect, but we'll see. I respected him. I really could get behind his work. I really valued what he was doing. I could see the good that he was putting out there. He was really speaking to men. He's a leader in the healing space, specifically when it comes to men. And I really value his voice and his work. And he created a post that I disagreed with. It really brought out the feminine rage within me, and I expressed it. And he invited conversation, and he invited conversation via DM, voice note. And he invited it because he said he would love to hear my perspective. And I gave him my perspective, and I was met with avoidance. I was met with avoidance. I was met with him not answering. And it's been a few weeks now, 3 weeks, over 3 weeks since since I've heard from him. A part of me feels like he's never going to respond. Another part of me is thinking maybe he's really sitting with what I said. We'll see. Anyways, I made this video, and I know I've called out other people and stuff. Anyways, men claim to want an embodied woman who has reclaimed her power, who is unapologetically herself, who has reclaimed her voice, who trusts her intuition over logic, and who is unafraid to name distortion when she sees it. I'm seeing a lot of men in the spiritual space, in the healing space, claiming that they desire a woman who's embodied. But the truth is, when they're faced with an embodied woman, when God presents them with an embodied woman who truly has reclaimed her voice, they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do. And I believe it stems from the patriarchy, the unconscious patriarchy, because that lives in their bones. Men have been programmed to feel safe when a woman is palatable. They're programmed to feel safe that way when a woman is not actually in her power. That's what they're used to. It's generational. It lives in his body. So when he's presented with a woman who actually is in her power, it disrupts his nervous system. It triggers him. And I'm seeing men who claim to be embodied who are running when a woman challenges him, when a woman who sees his shadow mirrors that back to him. I've experienced this personally on more than one occasion, and it's really disheartening to see, especially leaders in this space. Women are waking up, and we need men to wake the f up too, especially if you are in a leadership position. Okay, so I'm going to read the caption in a second as well, but I wanted to just quickly say it's disrupting to women as well, and I want to say that as well, like specifically, like yes, men, but also women. Like what I'm thinking is, women, for example, it's like women suppress themselves, the masculine energy within women suppress the feminine energy, suppress like women suppress themselves as a result of this wound too. So I do want to acknowledge that, but really seeing it in men too. And this video was prompted specifically because a leader in this space who claims to be embodied, who claims that women, like he talks about this, he says women are often the initiation. They invite you to meet yourself deeper. And he talks about this stuff and the fact that he was met with somebody who did challenge him, who did invite him invited him, into more depth. Instead of acknowledging it and being present, he avoided, he ran. And I'm thinking, like, how embodied are you really? It's like not walking the walk. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like you're talking the talk, but you're not walking the walk. If you're a leader in this space, we need you embodied. And I'm not saying that he desired me or anything like that, because at the beginning, I was saying like, embodied men claim to want an embodied woman, but it's like when you're faced with one, how you react is everything. So this is my caption that I want to read as well. That just kind of goes on it a little bit deeper. Men who claim to be embodied say they desire an embodied woman, a woman who walks in her truth, who is unapologetically herself, who trusts her intuition over logic, who sees through distortion and is not afraid to name it. They say they want her until God places her in front of them. Then, suddenly, they don't know what to do. Her presence and voice unsettles them. They retreat into the little boy within. They take her clarity as a personal attack. Their nervous system gets triggered and they either react or run. Because a woman in her power is dysregulating, not because she's unsafe, but because they've been conditioned to feel safe only when a woman stays small. Society has demanded that women shrink for centuries, and so when one refuses to, it shakes the very foundation of the unconscious patriarchy still living in their bones. The unconscious patriarchy runs much deeper than most are aware, and this is something I'm beginning to understand at a much deeper level. Women are reclaiming their power, their voice, their essence, and many men simply don't know how to meet them there. Even men who claim to be embodied, even those in leadership positions, I've experienced this firsthand on more than one occasion. And yes, to be clear, this, just a little side note, that I have experienced this on more than one occasion, where I bring something to a man, a leader, and they're unable to meet me. They either get defensive or they run. And let me be clear, when I'm bringing something to someone, I'm not yelling at them. I'm very very calm, clear, and I don't even want to say calm. I'm very expressive, but not in a shameful way. I'm very expressive, but not in a shameful way. I'm not afraid to express myself, my emotion, but it also, it's dysregulating, right? People don't know how to handle it, men and women alike, but men in this space, if you're a leader, we need you to do better, like seriously, because you're leading these men, but you're not embodied yourself is a red flag. And this isn't about blame, it's a call for men to rise, especially the ones leading this work. Because if you're holding space for others, but can't hold space for a woman in her full expression, then you're not as embodied as you think. Embodiment doesn't start with your words. It starts with how you show up when you're challenged, when you're mirrored, when you're met. Embodiment isn't a concept, it's a lived experience. It shows in how you regulate when truth confronts you, in how you respond when it would be easier to run or avoid. Leadership is tested through real life experience, not when it's easy, but when your edges are touched. When a powerful woman reflects your shadow back to you, not to shame you, but to invite you into your wholeness. How you respond reveals everything. That's where true embodiment begins. So I've really been expressing myself on my Instagram. You guys definitely follow me over there because I've been, yeah, really talking about all of this stuff. Okay. I'm gonna leave it with my Instagram post, but definitely follow me over on the Instagram, you guys. But I really wanted to talk about this today because, as I said, like, we are all affected by the unconscious patriarchy, and the feminine has been betrayed by the masculine, and it's mirrored in so many different ways. I'm not blaming men individually and only. However, it's important to acknowledge the pain that men have caused. And, just going back to this most recent post, this person who's in a leadership position, and they met me with avoidance. It's just really disappointing to see people in this space who are not embodied. And again, I'm not saying anybody's perfect. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've made mistakes before, and embodiment happens in layers. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it happens in layers. It happens through experience. It happens with time. So I'm not saying anybody needs to be perfect, but this person, for example, if they were to even respond to me now, and they were to acknowledge if they were to acknowledge their avoidance, and they were to acknowledge what I said, and they were to acknowledge kind of where they went wrong, that to me is leadership. That to me is leadership that I can respect. And I'm not expecting that from this person, but it really shows. We need to be so mindful of who we follow online and who we trust, because there are people in this space that claim to be embodied that really aren't there. And I've experienced that with men and women. Okay, not only men, I've experienced that with men and women. Trust me, I've been on some retreats too where women are leading, and they're really shouldn't be holding space, and more damage can be perpetuated that way. So this is an era where we really need to like trust ourselves over anything always. And I'm sharing this is my story, this is my perspective, this is what I've been learning, and I know that I have more to learn. I'm not saying I know everything. I'm not saying I know everything. I want to make that very clear as well. I'm sure that I will make mistakes as well. I have made mistakes before. Like, I've made mistakes before. Yeah, I've made mistakes before myself, and I get it. And acknowledging that, and listening to other people when they bring something to you is not easy. I've been on the other end of this. Let me make that very clear. I've been on the other end of this, and I've even come out on my TikTok's my largest platform. I have almost 600,000 followers on there. Not that it's about that, but there was a period a couple years ago where I had a distorted view on, something in particular, and it was brought forward to me, and it was hard for me to take in and listen and sit with, but I did. It was a huge tower moment. And then as a result of that, I was able to see clearer, hold compassion for myself and the reasoning as to why I had that distorted view, and I acknowledged where I went wrong. And I think that that's what's important. It's important that we have leaders or people who have platforms. They don't need to be perfect, but it's important to have the ability to acknowledge when you're wrong, and to have the ability to sit with criticism, genuine criticism, not just taking everything as a personal attack. Because that's another thing. This person took it, I think, as a personal attack, and I wasn't attacking them. I was straightforward and blunt with what I was saying. I wasn't shaming them or rude. I was simply in my full expression and was straightforward in my truth and in my clarity. And I think because I was a woman, that was very dysregulating for them. I think if a man were to have presented that to them, they would have taken it differently. So, anyways, and I feel I'm going to continue to call out injustice when I see it. Maybe not every single thing, but the ones I feel called to speak on at least. And again, this is not me saying I'm perfect or anything like that. I want to make that very, very, very clear. But we're living in an age where we need to be so mindful of who we listen to, who we follow. And it's important to really trust yourself over anything, because if a person is preaching something or teaching something, but it's coming from the lens of their ego, it can be misguided, it can be distorted, and that can perpetuate more harm than good. So it's important to bring awareness to these things and to illuminate the distortion, which is why I've been feeling called to make the videos that I've been making. You know, even the Aubrey Marcus video that I made, like I really feel called to be bringing awareness to the distortion that I see based on my lens, based on my experience. So I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you thought of this video. Follow me out on the Instagram, you guys, if you want more stuff, more personal stuff, more deep. I'm getting in deep. Thank you so much for being here. Subscribe. I'd love to have you be part of the fam. Subscribe if you're not yet subscribed. Like the video, share the video. If you're interested in supporting me and my channel, liking the video, sharing the video, subscribing, engaging really does help me out. Also, I do have a tip jar in the description below. Never expected, always appreciated. I'm also a brand ambassador for Flowdose, which is a mush microdosing company that I genuinely can get behind. I've only partnered with 2 brands, you guys. Shilajit Resin, I'm an ambassador for them as well. I never talk about it. I've been with that brand for a while. And then now Flowdose as well. Flowdose, if you use my link, it gives you a free starter pack with your first purchase. And Shilajit, it gives you 10% off your order. That can all be found in the description below. Without further ado, I'm gonna close this video. I'm sending you so much love. If you made it to the end, let me know. Thank you so much for making it to the end and listening to my rambles. I'm sending you so much love. I love you dearly. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.